The Summer I Turned Pretty, a journey through first love, youth, and unforgettable summers. There are some stories that feel less like books and more like memories we somehow forgot we had. The Summer I Turned Pretty trilogy is one of those stories. It is a tender, emotional journey into the strange and beautiful world of growing up, where summers seem endless, first love feels eternal, and a single glance can carry the weight of an entire universe. At the heart of the trilogy is Isabel "Belly" Conklin, a teenage girl who has spent almost every summer of her life at Cousins Beach with her mother, Laurel, her brother Stephen, and the Fisher family. For Belly, summer is more than a season. It is a tradition, a feeling, a place where everything seems possible. It is where she has grown up, fallen in love, experienced heartbreak, and slowly discovered who she really is. But this particular summer is different. Belly is no longer the little girl everyone remembers. She has grown into a young woman, and suddenly the people around her begin to see her differently. Most importantly, two brothers who have always been part of her life, Conrad and Jeremiah Fisher, start seeing her in ways she never expected. And just like that, summer becomes complicated. Conrad is quiet, mysterious, and emotionally distant. He carries an intensity that makes Belly feel as though there is always something hidden behind his eyes. Jeremiah, on the other hand, is warm, playful, and openly affectionate. He makes Belly laugh and gives her the kind of attention she has always wanted. Caught between the two brothers, Belly finds herself at the center of a love story that is anything but simple. Yet the trilogy is not really just about choosing between Conrad and Jeremiah. Beneath the romance is a much deeper story about growing up. Belly begins the series believing that love is something she can dream about, something beautiful and uncomplicated. As the story progresses, she discovers that real love can be confusing, painful, and imperfect. It can bring happiness one moment and heartbreak the next. The first book, The Summer I Turned Pretty, captures that magical moment when childhood begins slipping away. Belly arrives at Cousins Beach hoping this will finally be the summer when everything changes. And it does. Her relationships with Conrad and Jeremiah become more complicated. Friendships begin to shift, and Belly starts understanding that becoming an adult means leaving certain versions of yourself behind. There is something deeply nostalgic about the way the story portrays summer. The beach, the warm evenings, long conversations, swimming, parties, music, and quiet moments under the stars all create an atmosphere that feels almost dreamlike. It reminds readers of a time when a summer holiday could feel like an entire lifetime. But beneath all that sunshine is an unmistakable sadness. The second book, It's Not Summer Without You, takes the emotional journey to a much darker place. The carefree feeling of the first summer begins to disappear, and the characters are forced to confront loss, change, and the painful reality that life does not always follow the plans we make for it. Belly is no longer simply trying to figure out which boy she loves. She's trying to understand what happens when the world she has always known begins falling apart. This is where the trilogy becomes particularly powerful. Jenny Han does not present growing up as a straight line. Instead, it feels messy and unpredictable. People change. Relationships evolve. The things that once seemed permanent suddenly become fragile. Belly discovers that nostalgia can be both comforting and painful. A place can remain the same while the people inside it change completely. Then comes We'll Always Have Summer, the final book, where Belly must face the consequences of the choices she has made. The story becomes a reflection on love, maturity, and the difficult question of whether the person you loved when you were young is necessarily the person who belongs in your future. By this point, Belly has changed dramatically. She is more independent and more aware of herself. She understands that love cannot simply be about wanting someone. Sometimes love means understanding yourself first. That is perhaps the greatest strength of the trilogy. Belly grows. She makes mistakes. She gets jealous. She makes decisions she later questions. She gets hurt and sometimes hurts other people. But that is what makes her feel real. She is not a perfect heroine. She is simply a young woman learning how complicated life can be. Conrad and Jeremiah are equally complicated. Neither brother exists merely as a romantic option. They have their own fears, insecurities, and struggles. Their relationships with Belly are shaped by years of friendship, family history, and shared memories. That history makes every romantic decision more meaningful and more painful. The trilogy also understands something important about first love. Sometimes we remember the feeling more strongly than the person. When we are young, our first crush can feel like destiny. A smile can become a treasured memory. A song can suddenly remind us of one particular summer. A beach, a house, or even the smell of the ocean can transport us back years in an instant. That is the emotional magic of The Summer I Turned Pretty. It makes readers remember their own summers. Perhaps you remember staying awake late during a family vacation. Perhaps you remember sitting beside someone you secretly liked, wondering whether they felt the same way. Maybe there was a friendship that slowly became something more, or a relationship that ended before you were ready to let it go. The trilogy taps into all of those feelings. Its world is filled with romance, but it is also filled with friendship, family, grief, jealousy, hope, and self-discovery. The beach becomes almost like another character, a place where the characters can escape everyday life and become different versions of themselves. And that is why the books remain so appealing. They are easy to read, but the emotions linger. There is a particular kind of sadness in realizing that childhood summers cannot last forever. Eventually, everyone grows older. The familiar house may still be there, the ocean may still sound the same, and the sun may still set over the water, but the people who once gathered there will have changed. That bittersweet truth is at the center of Belly's story. She begins by waiting for summer because she believes summer will give her the life she wants. By the end, she understands that life cannot be frozen in a perfect season. Growing up means accepting change while carrying your memories with you. In that sense, The Summer I Turned Pretty is more than a love triangle. It is a story about the moment childhood becomes memory. It is about first love and the heartbreak that comes with discovering that love does not always arrive at the right time. It is about friendships that survive change, families that carry invisible scars, and the courage it takes to decide what kind of person you want to become. Most importantly, it reminds us that some summers never really end. They live inside us, in old photographs, familiar songs, forgotten conversations, and places we haven't visited in years. So, if you are looking for a story that combines romance with nostalgia, heartbreak with hope, and youthful innocence with the realities of growing up, The Summer I Turned Pretty trilogy is an unforgettable choice. Find a quiet place. Imagine the sound of waves in the distance. Let the scent of salt and warm summer air fill your imagination. Then turn the first page. For a little while, you might find yourself young again, waiting for summer, waiting for love, and believing that somewhere beyond the horizon, everything might still be possible.